All right, folks. Colin said we live, so we live. So let's get the things popping, man. Today I'm coming to y'all with probably one of the most hottest techniques in bass fishing right now. It's taking off like wildfire, and it has so many different names to it. Demiki rigging, tight lining, hover scrolling, shaking the minnow. It's just so many different ways to call it. You guys saw my boy J-Dub. He won at Gunnersville doing it. This bait right here. But it's whatever your favorite minnow style bait is, right? Whatever your favorite jig head is. In the hover scroll case, it's a nail weight and a hook. I'm not going to go into that. But if you guys want to Google that or look it up on YouTube, you can. It's very similar. Man, this is taking the fishing industry by storm, and rightfully so. And you can credit forward-facing sonar for this really taking off, in my opinion, because we're now able to fish for fish we never had an opportunity to, let alone fish for. We didn't even know they were there. But now we're becoming aware of where they are, and they're often suspended fish, 30, 40, 50, however deep. Places where you ain't getting a jerk bait, you ain't getting a swim bait, you ain't getting a spinner bait, you ain't getting a crankbait. You don't have a lot of options when it comes to these fish. And by them being suspended, I personally don't like a drop shot, because now you're dealing with two different pieces of equipment, the weight, then the bait and the hook, right? Why don't we just compact all of that into one jig head, right? Boom, and then present this bait to them. So that's what we're here to talk about in today's setup. I'm just gonna call it the Minnow rig. I don't even know what to call it, but you see guys out there staring at the graphs. They got the bait tied on, spinning rod, 30 foot that way, 40 foot deep. You pitch your bait over there, you let your bait sink down, and you jiggle this in front of them, and you get bit. That's what today's setup is about. I'll tell you guys how I like to fish this technique. I'll even go a little bit into the presentation of it, but it's pretty simple, to be quite honest, man. And you don't have to necessarily have forward-facing sonar, man. This technique is very old. Like I said, my old-timers watching this will call this tight lining, where you used to just throw this bait up toward the bank, and you kept a tight line, and you more or less let that bait pendulum back to the boat, and it kind of hovered over the contours on its way back to the boat, and naturally you would drag that over a fish. Boom, you get a bite, you catch one, right? A very prominent technique. It's been around a long time. It's just been kind of revolutionized with forward-facing sonar, and that's what brings us to today's video. So I'm gonna jump into this real quick, and then we'll talk about the gear that I like to use. Then we'll get into the presentation and things like that, some of the more important aspects. So as you guys have seen before on the setup, you've seen me talk about this particular rod and reel combo. Because when it comes to a spinning rod, this is my favorite. No pun intended on that. This is a 6'10" hex, medium action. Now let me stress on that for just a second. I like a medium action. So this is a softer rod. Almost always when we're fishing this technique, this is an open water application. So I'm not worried about getting hung up around any kind of cover down there. So I like a softer tip rod for A, that reason. For B, I can use a little lighter line, so I feel like it's more of a natural presentation, and I can get that bait to them faster. And then for C, I'm one of those super trigger-happy fishermen. When I feel a bite, I want to immediately set the hook. Like, I don't want to give them no time. I get a bite, I want to set the hook. But I've learned over time that's actually a bad habit. And with this medium action rod, what'll happen is that tip, I'll get a bite, and then that tip will just load just a little bit. And it's just enough of a delayed reaction to where I can slow down, just wait just a little bit, let that tip load, and then boom, I can set the hook. And more times than not, I'm gonna hook that fish and land that fish. So I like a medium action. You guys might like a medium heavy, man, but for me, a medium, or even in some cases, maybe even a medium light, something with a lot of give to it, I feel like will help you guys land and fish, because you're not going to set the hook too quick. Hugely important. So that's the rod that I like in this situation. The reel is a Johnny Morris Bass Pro Shop 3000 edition. And you guys will look at this line on here, and you're probably going, what in the world is that? I probably shouldn't be talking about this just yet, but I'm going to let you guys in on something. This is something that's actually out already, but it's not out in the United States. This is a JDM braid from Seagar, and it will be coming to the States soon, is all I'm going to say. I probably shouldn't have said that, but I'm going to say that. All right? I've been playing with this for a minute. It's actually amazing, so be on the lookout for that. The leader line, you guys know what I like. This is Seagar Gold Label, the best leader material that ever has been built to mankind. I like doing this technique on 10 and 12. I have 10 rigged up right now. I'd say 10 is my go-to. And then, again, if I get around a little bigger fish, that tends to be the reasoning for bumping it up. I tend to get around bigger fish, or if I do choose to fish this style of a technique around some sort of cover, right? Then I want 12. I can tighten my drag down a little bit more. Then I can pull fish away a little bit faster, increase my odds of landing them. So that's always key. Let's talk about how you fish this technique a little bit, because I'm sure you guys are interested in that. It's not just as easy as, oh, there's one, you throw your bait over there. It's not quite that easy. So obviously we use a forward facing sonar. You see a fish over there, and like I said, he's 30 foot out and he's 40 foot down, which is actually pretty deep. And believe it or not, for those that have done this before, it's quite hard to get your bait right on a fish that's moving and he's that deep. 30 and 40 foot, it's really difficult to get your bait on him. But when you do, right, this is what I like to do. I often want to throw beyond the fish, okay? You don't want to throw in front of the fish, obviously. You want to throw past the fish so you can bring the bait to the fish. It's much more natural, and then I feel like it just kind of puts you as the angler a little more in control, okay? So I get that bait out there. It's past that fish. I want to bring that bait to that fish, but I want to make sure that bait is above the fish's head. That is critical. When these bass are suspended, they never want to feed downward. They always want to feed upward. That's critical. So knowing that, you want to keep that bait above the fish's head. 1, 2 to 3 feet is about where I want to be as I'm looking at my screen and I'm watching this. I want that bait to be about 1 to 3 feet above that fish's head. Now, as that bait is above that fish's head, this is why forward-facing sonar is so good. This is one of the reasons. I'm studying and I'm watching this fish's reaction to my presentation, and it's telling me how I need to further present the bait. Speed it up, twitch it more, drop it, lift it. It allows me to, as I'm watching this unfold, I'm thinking through all of this as it's going down. But I start off, I bring the bait over the fish's head, and I'm using this almost, I don't know how you would call it, a shaking cadence. That's why some people call it shaking the minnow, because you're literally shaking your rod tip like this. And what that does is that bait is now coming through the water column like this, but he's rocking side to side like this. And that's very natural as far as an injured bait fish look, right? That bait rocking side to side like that. So here this bait comes over the fish's head, it's rocking side to side, and boom, he sees it. And immediately you'll know on the graph when he sees it, he'll start tracking up towards it. And then I'm gonna pull it away from him a little more. He keeps coming towards it. And the whole time I'm shaking the rod, and then I'm just feeding off his reaction. And as he acts, I react, right? So you just twitch it above their head, you get their attention, eventually they're gonna slide up, thunk, and they're gonna bite that bait. And then at that point, I let the rod tip load, set the hook, the rest is history. Does it always happen like that? Absolutely not. More times than not, them suckers follow that bait and they will not bite it. But I'll say if I throw at 50 of them in a day, I might catch, I don't know, 20 maybe, you know. So decent odds, but not terribly great. But it's something that's taken off, and it's huge right now, especially this time of year. The fish are in bigger schools in the wintertime, going into the springtime, and it's just a very effective way to catch some fish. And again, if you're a bank guy, don't feel like you can't do this. If you're a kayak guy, if you don't got graphs on your boat, like I said, get in those areas where you know these fish like to live. And if I don't have any electronics, what I'm doing is I'm gonna cast that bait out. I'm actually let it go to the bottom, and then I'm just gonna twitch that bait back to the boat and let it kind of just hover over the contour. So as it drops off, you're gonna let it fall a little deeper and a little deeper. But you're just gonna keep that cadence coming to it, and those fish are always looking up, man. So a fish is gonna notice that, and then boom, they're gonna take off, and you're gonna catch some fish doing that. People have been doing it for years. But something I've been doing a lot this fall and going into this winter, and it has been absolutely fun. If you guys haven't tried it, man, check it out. A lot of great baits out there. Whatever your favorite minnow style bait is, man. There's so many of them on the market, man. Like this is a Z-Man Streaks. My boy J-Dub with his bait is awesome as well. And there's a ton of other ones, man. That's just the two that came to my mind. Strike King has a bunch. You name it, man. There's a lot of great baits out there. But just something I thought I'd share, man, on this setup. This is relevant right now. I'm going to say from now probably till the end of March is when this is going to be most effective. And then after the fish get done spawning and they start grouping back up and they get offshore, then it's going to be another hot bait. But right now, it is something you definitely want to give a shot. Get yourself the right combos, the right rod and reel line, get set up, and go catch them, man. So that's it, you guys, on today's setup, man. We got the minnow shaking rig. But thank you guys for watching, man. Drop them comments. I need more setups, man. I'm going through as many as I possibly can. I want to hear what's heavy on your heart. What do you want to learn how to use? You guys drop the comment. I'm going to do the video. I appreciate you guys watching as always. Like, subscribe, comment, all that juicy stuff for me, please. And I'll catch y'all on the next one. See you.